Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTN network in South Africa.
This is Omnisport.
T's and C's apply.
I've been getting strong feedback about me needing to get into Formula One, but I won't wilt. Although it is a great sport. This weekend, they're off to Azerbaijan, which I've been to, by the way. I've been to Baku before. The Baku circuit, hey, I checked it out on the interwebs. Looks insane. It looks like they've pumped crazy money into it. As you heard in the headlines, the big story going to the weekend is McLaren tracking down Red Bull in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella has confirmed the plans to prioritize Britain's Lando Norris over teammate Oscar Piastri in the Formula One title ambitions this year. Going to the weekend, Azerbaijan, Norris is second in the Drivers' Championship standings, 62 points behind Max Verstappen, with a maximum of 232 points still available. The Constructors is even closer, with Red Bull only leading by 8 points. Qualifying will be on Saturday for the race on Sunday. How does that sit with sort of having a number one, number two? How's that news gone down?
Well, the team orders make sense. I mean, if they'd allowed Norris to win in the last Grand Prix, the Italian Grand Prix, whenever Verstappen finished sixth, then he would have gained more points. But he only gained 8 points over him. So, I mean, it's about the points and also about the prestige. You can see the way Norris is taking it, that he's sort of iffy about it. He says, in the short term, it may not look good, and in the long term, it may not even look, it'd be great to have a title, but in the long term, people will still talk about it. Would they put an X against it? Said, I want to win the title against the best in the world. I want to be fighting with Max on the park. But that said, team orders are nothing new. Schumacher had them, and Schumacher was a great driver. Lando Norris is a great driver. Verstappen has got an absolute pig of a car at the moment. And Sergio Perez has been quoted this week saying, now that Max Verstappen is struggling, now you understand why I'm in a slump.
Wow.
That guy's that good, and he's struggling with this car. What do you think is happening with me? But that said, Verstappen's still got 7 wins this season, 10 podiums. Norris has only got 2 and 10. There's Charles Leclerc sort of hovering around. He thinks the Ferrari's not on the same level as the McLaren and the Red Bull, but I think they are. I think they're just about there. Maybe not the McLaren quite at the moment, but definitely they're ahead of the Red Bull.
My question is, why wouldn't you have this sorted at the beginning of the season? Like, I remember a time like, this is our number one driver. You are a number two driver. There's no room for what we call in South Africa amang here. There's no need for shenanigans of in the middle of the season. Now we're scrambling and now we got to explain to a guy like, okay, Lando's the number one driver. The other guy must shut the hell up and drive the number two car. Why is that so complicated? Yeah,
they want to have this illusion or this sense of fair play, of competitiveness. Like, both our guys are racing each other. But then they race each other. So don't race each other that way.
Race
each other a little bit slower. Don't mud each other. Don't go into each other hard in the corners. So that's that sense that they're trying to stop. They want to project it, but then they want the best of both worlds, and they can't really have them.
No, you can't. You certainly cannot have it, especially in a place where there's points. There's limited points. So I think it's
in another sport that we call match fixing.
Well, look, in the NFL they have a great term. They say if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a single quarterback. And I think this is very much the same. So this is where it takes self-awareness. And this is why a guy like Rubens Barrichello, maybe now you're starting to understand, is those people with that level of self-awareness and the happiness to play, not just know your role, but play your role. Barrichello played his role. He never made noise about it, and he earned his, 10 million euros a year or whatever, and was happily going home. So exciting weekend in Baku, at the Baku circuit in Azerbaijan this weekend, Azerbaijan GP, for those of you who are into it. Let's go over to the pugilist, the sweet science. Canelo Alvarez will defend his unified WBC, WBA, and WBO super middleweight world titles against undefeated WBA number 1 ranked contender Edgar Berlanga from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada on Sunday morning Central African time. Here's what Canelo Alvarez had to say leading into fight weekend.
Never overlooking any fighter. I know he's young, he's a good fighter, he's strong. But I've been in there with everybody. So I have so much experience, I'm strong, I have a lot of talent, and I'm just the best. No, I always take my fights seriously, and I always train 100% in every fight, no matter who is in there. So I always have the same mentality, and this is no deception.
He truly is the best.
Yeah, he is. I mean, at 34, he's gone up and down weight divisions, light, heavyweight, middleweight. He just looks like extraordinary. I mean, apparently, he is now worth $250 million. He's invested very well. He's a clever man. I mean, his entire... I was looking at his entire name. It's Santos Alvarez Bargan. And his nickname is actually Cinnamon. So that means he's a bit burny.
Well, that's a Caneo because of the red hair. Yeah, that's why they. So also who's it? McAllister, who plays for Liverpool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you saw they used to call him I think it was El Cholo, and then they called him Caneo, and he sulked in the Argentine camp, and Leo Messi had to tell the guys to stop calling him that because it offended him.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Even as a millionaire, these guys are insecure.
Imagine Leo Messi being that nice to somebody.
Yeah. All right, challenger Edgar Berlanga, though respectful, thinks he can beat the great Canelo Alvarez. Here's what Edgar had to say.
You know, for me, it's like who's going to land first? You know, who's going to be the smarter man? Who's going to have the better IQ? Who's going to be intelligent in that ring? You know, everybody wants to knock out, right? Especially the guys that punch. Guys that punch want to knock somebody out. All my fights, I want to catch a knockout. I want to knock somebody out. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's going to be a big fight, you know. Every fighter wants to knock out. You know, who don't want to knock out? Everybody wants to knock somebody out, right? But, you know, we know that he's a legend, and we know that we can't go in there and just trying to swing for the fence on him. You know what I'm saying? He got great IQ. He's intelligent. So we got to do it the right way.
I do know what you're saying, Edgar. He is very good. He is a legend. That'll be on Sunday morning, Central African time. Big fight. Canelo Alvarez, of course, the sort of face of boxing along with Anthony Joshua at the moment. Globally. Love boxing, love the sweet science. Cannot wait to watch that on Sunday morning. Let's move over to Tyreek Hill of the NFL, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, who was detained for a traffic violation last week, and the police had a body camera. Of course, that video went viral, and Tyreek addressed the matter and how he could have dealt with it in hindsight.
Yes, I will say I could have been better. You know, I could have let down my window, you know, in that instant. But the thing about me is, man, I don't want attention. I don't want to be like cameras out, phones on you, you know, in that moment. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm human. I gotta follow rules. I gotta do what, you know, everyone else would do, you know. So now, does that give them the right to literally beat the dog out of me? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, I wish I could go back and, you know, do things a bit differently. It's shell shocking, man. It's really crazy to know that, you know, you have officers in this world that would literally do that with body cams on. You know, it's sad. It's really sad. Which brings up another conversation and leads into what would they do if they didn't have body cams?
Wow.
You know, obviously there's a contentious relationship in America. There's a racial dynamic. There's whatever. You can go and read the history about it. But it's very difficult with someone like Tyreek Hill for me to know, because it's always Tyreek Hill. This is like, you know, he fell in the draft, in the NFL draft, because he had problems with the law in college, right?
Yeah.
And then also he put hands on his wife.
Yeah.
So I don't, like, I never, you know, your behavior will determine what society will give you in terms of rope. And obviously that looked terrible. But again, it's like, when you're a habitual offender, it's very difficult for me to ever go to be on your side, because you just never know. And he is kind of cantankerous in that situation with the police officer, because the police officer is standing there for like 30 seconds, like, hey, mind your window down.
I mean, it was over the top by the cop, eventually. But he has got previous as well. He's had an assault charge against him for hitting a worker at the marina.
Yeah.
So you kind of both worlds again.
It's a difficult one. I'll tell you what is also a difficult one. It is U.S. election debate season, of course, and there is no bigger platform in America than the NFL. And it's quite easily, of course, the NFL, the biggest TV show in America. And the main character in this show we call the NFL is a Super Bowl winning Kansas City quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. After some high-profile athletes endorsed their candidates of choice after the debate, Mahomes spoke about how he would use his platform regarding the political matter.
platform to be used to endorse a candidate or do whatever. Either way, I think my place is to inform people to get registered to vote. It's to inform people to do their own research and then make their best decision for them and their family. And so I think that's, every time I'm on this stage and I get asked these questions, I'm going to refer back to that because I think that's what makes America so great. Yeah, I mean, I think I've always, even dating back, I think if you've seen my history, I've grown up with people from every aspect of life and every background. And I think the best thing about a football locker room and kind of how I've grown up in baseball locker rooms, everything about that is people can come together and achieve something and achieve a common goal. And I think if we can, I mean, we talked about it a while back, but I think if we can do that as a nation, I think we can get the best out of each other. And so I think that's something that I do every single day. And whenever I'm hanging out with whoever, I'm not thinking about their political views or anything like that. I'm thinking about the people and how they treat other people. At the end of the day, it's about me and my family and how we treat other people. And I think you see is that Brittany does a lot in the community. I do a lot in the community to help bring people up and give people other opportunities to use their voice. And so it's in the political times, people are going to use stuff here and there. But I can't let that affect how I go about my business every single day and live my life and try to live it to the best of my ability.
He's an iconic young man because he's got so much going on. His family's chaotic. He's got a younger brother who's been accused of all sorts of ugly stuff. His father, a couple of DUIs. Like, there's just so much going on in this young man's life. And he's always exemplary in front of the microphone.
I read a headline that goes, an NFL three-peat should be impossible. But with Patrick Mahomes, there is no such thing. And they said, be afraid, sound the alarm. The Chiefs have got that look again.
They do have that look again. All right, on the other side, let's get back on this side of the Atlantic. We have our own version of football. The Premier League is back. We're going to get into the Red Devils. Erik ten Hag.
Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTM network in South Africa.
This is Omni Sports.
T's and C's apply.